Hello everyone, hello, this is the Festival of LINOLEUM. My name is Sasha Rubin. I'm the moderator of our wonderful meetings with our professionals. Our educational program is done here at Projector, together with the library of Projector. So here at Projector you can watch our lectures, and a bit later we will tell you when, and then you will be able to enjoy them again. I would like to tell you instantly that it is done within the project of LINOLEUM and the British Skwigly Animation Magazine edition, which has the name of I'm Fine, and is done with the support of the British Council within the Season of Culture of UK in Ukraine. Today we have Oleksii Karachynskyi, the psychotherapist, who will tell us about the burnout. What do we do with it? How we do identify it? How we cope with that? Come back to our wonderful work, creating animation films, and not only films. By the way, today we have the Day of Ukrainian Cinema, so I congratulate you all with that. And it's cool that we'll be speaking about burnout today. How can we cope with that to go on doing wonderful films, stories, animation films? Oleksii, help us to cope with this topic, which is so hard for us. Okay, thank you, dear friends. Hi, everyone. I would instantly ask you to show my presentation, and simultaneously I'll be telling what we'll do today. So our topic is professional burnout in creative work, how to prevent it and overcome it. So psychotherapy or therapy just is also a creative piece of work. So in fact, in the context of creativity, we are a bit of colleagues. I will be telling a lot about my own stories. I've been 2 times or even 3 times in a very deep burnout. One of the cases was not even connected with therapy, but with art. So, additionally, I will introduce myself. I'm a psychotherapist, a counselor, a PhD, military psychologist, and a veteran or ex-combatant. Okay, so today we'll have several key issues. First of all, we will try to give a definition what emotional burnout is, then how to, well, in fact, identify the syndrome of professional burnout or emotional burnout. They are really look like each other. I will tell about 10 symptoms. Who is prone to this kind of burnout? Which could be the reasons at work? And how can we prevent the repetitive burnout at work if we had it? Or what could be done if it has taken place? And let us begin with the definition, what emotional burnout is. I've got 2 life stories. One of my close friends is helping children who have cancer, and he himself is living in Germany, so they bring children there, mostly by those who are from Ukraine. He is helping them, and there was a boy with whom for about 2 months he was just conducting as a volunteer a very substantial and tense work. He was totally committed to this work because he really wanted this boy to recover. But the boy died, and my friend got to the psychiatric ward because he could not overcome this loss. So we will be speaking about why it took place. And the second story, I do remember in 2014, my first rotation was close to Melitopol, and the brigade was there, which just was out of the combats. From Slovyansk. Lots of people died, perished there, and in fact the military are super closed people, so when we came as a team of psychologists, there were long queues to us. It's okay for the psychotherapist or just therapist to have 2 or 3 consultations a day. When there are more of them, it's too much. But there were long queues to us because they told nothing helps us. Neither alcohol or nor any of the maybe even drugs. Nothing helps us at all. Please save us. So as far as I remember, I was sitting at the table in the morning. The last meeting was closer to the evening. And I do remember that it was hard for me then to calculate what is 2 plus 2. The last time was like that when I was preparing for the test in school. When you are sitting at the table for the whole day and then you don't know how to calculate 2 plus 2 because it's too complicated. So I came back from the rotation. We've been there for 2 weeks. And I remember such a feeling that I laid down as if I was running, rushing. I finally achieved my final destination and I'm out of any force, out of any powers to do anything else. I do remember what I had enough forces for, just to scroll down Facebook feed without even reading it, just to do some mechanical move, but without even focusing and without reading. And in the same way, I do remember communication with my father. We have good relations with him, but I didn't even have power to answer, to respond. Or someone was writing a message and it was so hard for me to answer, to understand that I need to respond to the message. And one answer may be not enough to conclude this conversation. So these questions are piling up, and you're totally out of any force and power, out of any resource for anything. Could you please tell, Oleksii, is it physical or psychological efforts? You're saying that I don't want. I can physically, but I don't want, or I don't have emotional reserve to answer. Or you mean the physical as well, because it's hard for you to take a cell phone, or is it a combination of physical and mental? Well, it's a combination. I will tell you later. When you're out of any efforts, you need to restore your force. So our psychiatric and our forces are working in the following way. We need to find some of the forces, then I will turn off your wishes, I will turn off your motivation, I will turn off just everything out, just for you to be able to lie down, to pile up your forces and powers, and then maybe something will happen. We'll be speaking about that later. So the lack of wish. You need forces, you need power and energy to wish. Just to go to the fridge, to take some food, it's also a wish. So does it turn off because it's the energy efficiency mode? Yes, like that. So it's like the phone, right? Yes, kind of energy saving mode. You've got lots of memory in iPhone, but if it's not enough, the iPhone won't work, it won't turn on. It's tasked to save itself. The same as when you're out of accumulator. As it's on the slide. You have the accumulator in the laptop, in Mac, you have such a system that it won't turn on if you're out of power. Whatever you do, if you click or not click, the task of the body is to survive, so it won't work. It is surviving any possible way, which could seem needed. The same way happens in the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for the complicated task, so it turns off all the wishes. So the term burnout was introduced by the psychiatrist Herbert Freudenberger. He compared that with the totally burnt house. So from the outside, this building, this house, looks totally okay, but within, inside, it is totally ruined. It is destroyed. So it's important to understand 2 points here. It's easy to identify some external trauma, but it's hard to identify emotional burnout. There are such notions in philosophy, like the shape and the essence. The shape, the form, is what we see. The essence is what is really happening within what we see. For instance, you came, you got a military injury, and then you came to the hospital. We'll have zero claims to this person why he or she is not at war, because we can see a physical injury, we can see the wound, we can see that it took place. That is why this person needs to be treated, that's it. It's obvious. But if there was a certain injury taking place in us, because the burnout is what can be compared with some trauma. So externally and rationally, we can convince ourselves that I'm okay, I'm fine, I'm totally intact from the inside, from the outside, and try to persuade ourselves that we can go on and we can do something what I don't want to do or what I'm out of resource to do. So the term itself, the notion of burnout, in the International Classifier of Diseases, is the consequence of the continuous unresolved stress, the continuous internal tension, which is taking place, for instance, at the job place. So the burnout can be provoked with a monotonous high load or burden or activity which claims intense emotions. What has taken place with Zhenya, that is my friend who was taking care about the boy? He was in the emotional tension for a long time. He was fighting for the boy's life, and he did not get the outcome which he would like to get. So what took place in my situation? I was both in the emotional tension, because those were the best Ukrainians, so we wouldn't like it to take place what really took place, and intellectual tension, a very long intellectual tension at the same job place. So this is how we can define the burnout. But before that, we need to understand the difference. What's the difference between the stress and the burnout? And here, how can we compare and separate, identify and to see the difference between the burnout and the stress? First of all, the burnout can be the result of the continuous stress. It's just a consequence of the stress. What do we feel in the stress? We can be motivated, we can have hopes and expectations that we'll take everything under control and it will improve soon. Emotionally, we are actively involved into the problems. We are active, we are emotional. So in the stress, we can see some emotions and the wishes. So what is happening with us? What do we feel when we are burnt out? Indifference, passive approach, the feeling of internal emptiness, some of the emotions getting not that acute, and a kind of the hopelessness or no way out. In the stress, you're losing energy. The person who has burnout loses motivation, the ideals and sense. And also stress can lead to the anxious disorder and burnout to depression. This is the difference of the stress and the burnout. And here I can name one more example. We, together with my friends in 2016, created a documentary theater. We said this is the theater of a refugee or internally displaced person. So we just registered and documented the stories of the people who lost their homes, mostly the refugees and IDPs from Lugansk and Donetsk regions, oblasts, and from the Crimea. And in fact, we had a super cool team, incredible professionals. We've got lots of European awards. We had a huge idea behind it, and what in fact was very relevant then, at the time, in that space. I do remember that for about half a year when we launched the activity, but the issue that we were out of money. There is a cool, super cool team of volunteers, if you remember this feeling of Maidan, lots of people who are for this idea, everything is doing something big, but we're out of money and we don't have the understanding where to take it from. We don't have a person who would write some of the grant applications, or just where we could find funding. But there are no issues. We got help from the people. They provide us with the premises. The same people filled with ideas, idealists, but still, we don't have the feeling that we have our own premises. You can be here today, but there tomorrow, and the main theater director told me in half a year, Oleksii, either we are closing or I'm leaving, because I cannot stand it. I'd like to do something what I can, my theater direction. I can't do that because I need to solve lots of other issues. And I was invited as a therapist, because you're working with so rather subtle stories, rather important, as we consider to help the person who tell the stories of IDPs. So I told him, let me do that. I have cool organizational capabilities. I did that for 2 years. And for 2 years, I've been both the therapist and the organizer and the manager and the loader and the fact who is in fact finds the vehicle where it's needed, finds the equipment where if it's needed, and sewing the costumes, right? And finds some stuff and can be the light manager. So I can see that you're saying about the whole load of different functions, right? It was the continuous stress, but then we came as the whole team and said, that's enough for us. And still, for about 5 years after we closed the theater, I don't have a single interest to the theater activity, even to the documentary theater. Why? Well, because, as we can see, the person under stressful conditions is losing energy. Lots of energy was lost. The person who has burnout loses motivation, ideals, and sense. All this taste, which is so important in the creative profession. Because if we lose the taste to what we are doing, then you should either change your professional activity, which could be interesting or maybe not that interesting to you, or we may always lose forever what we really love. And this is an important moment why we need to follow our burnout. I do apologize. Can we say that this is a kind of a poisoning? When you love mushrooms, you eat them more and more all the time, every day, in the morning, during the day, at night, and then your body just does not perceive, well, in fact, take those mushrooms. So I could say that it was too much for you. Well, yeah, it could be similar. The only similarity that poisoning takes place after the process, and the burnout does not last for some 3 weeks when the body is cleansing, but the burnout may last for 10 years or maybe even forever. Yes, there is the high probability that you will never like to eat any mushrooms at all. So you understood what the mushrooms are about, yes. Okay, so those are the external and internal factors which can lead to the burnout. The external ones are the conditions of work. The internal ones are some psychological settlements and beliefs which we use when we take a decision. And the modern trend for success, for instance, with the friends we are even making jokes that we need sneakers because we shouldn't spend time, so we need stickers because we can use the time for self-development. So you would like to speed up so much that you don't even use shoelaces, right? For it to be quicker. Yes, the same happens with the furnishing, which you shouldn't close the door. And you just pretend, you just need telepathy just to feed your cat, right? You need to be Magneto from X-Men to save your time, right? Yes, so this trend of success is kind of constant. This modern trend for success with a certain constant outcome. How many goals you have for a year? 120. And I only had 110. All of those goals have to be achieved. And that leads to two important issues. First is the continuous stress, after which we are emotionally exhausted, so we are speeding up ourselves, we are rushing us up. And the second is the trend that always and in everything you need to motivate yourself. As a result, we are constantly in this emotional tension, because of which we can see the increasing emotional exhaustion. So what are the external factors? First of all, is the load over the norm, in particular emotional load. Secondly, is the continuous work in the very tense speed. So, like we are running a marathon as a sprint. A businessman decided to open an enterprise and is thinking, it's okay, I will be working for 12 hours first, for half a year, but then I will be working for 2 hours only in half a year. It will be okay for him for half a year, but sometimes it happens that besides the entrepreneur himself, his enterprise is not needed as much as for him. So these 12 hours you are working on and on, and at some moment you can achieve the burnout. Because maybe there is automation, but still there are enough of tasks. Thirdly, the lack of money which would satisfy us, or the lack of the certain award for the work. When we are working, we are getting not enough. We can see that people get more who are around us, and we can feel this kind of devaluation of what is taking place. Fourth, constant deadlines, creating pressure. There is a big difference. Like the mother is saying to the child, just solve your math as it's convenient for you. Another mother could say, 5 minutes to solve your math, and that's it. If you don't do that, I'll cut your head out. So the second child will feel this pressure, and this pressure is constant and permanent. You can see your work only in deadlines, and especially it happens in the creative professions. When you have project commissioned works, we created a project and we instantly got the proposal of another project, and we didn't have enough time to relax. And you think, that is cool, finally, now it's working, let's take more. Because it's just perfect, that's obvious, that's profit and revenue. Yes, or maybe you're out of force, but you will have enough of force for one more project. I will earn more. And then you get another project with a higher award. So then we don't have any space to restore ourselves. We were running through a marathon and we're thinking, well, now we can have some relaxation. And then we think, no, one more marathon. You're running the marathon, you're almost dying. In the final, at the finish, you think, finally I can have some relaxation, and you're told, hey man, we're out of time, I cannot explain, let's run on. But guys, I didn't have time even to have a sip of water. Guys, I cannot explain, so let's go on and run on. So you think you're just eternal. You just are running without seeing the end. That's true. And then you get to the hospital and the doctor is telling you, hey man, you're not only a mundane person, I can show you in your X-rays where exactly you are mundane, you can die. But we still believe that we are so successful. That's true, definitely. Fifth position is the work which we don't like, but we are still staying because we don't want to betray the team. We don't want to, well, maybe we have good money for this job. The similarity could be, well, we wouldn't find the similar money. But every morning we wake up and we need to convince ourselves, to persuade ourselves to go and do something. And the sixth point is the pressure or isolation in the collective. For instance, complicated type of a chief, or just a complicated type of a collective. And this pressure is reflected onto our capabilities to love what we do. So what are the internal factors, as we told, psychological points? This is the hyper-responsibility and perfectionism. In particular, I need to do everything properly, timely, and perfectly. And it also creates internal pressure. Secondly, responsibility in front of the authority or the man of authority. We were invited to the project. It's important for us not to quit, not to let anyone down, and it does not let us relax. Even after the working hours, you think that I will stay and I will show. I am always saying, guys, if you have the trial period in some company, do not show more than your usual working hours. Work for about 80% of your norm, because in 2 months you will create some expectations. God, he can do 200%. That is cool. So we shape some image of ourselves, and then we'll be the hostages of this image. If I create the normal and adequate expectations, I'm working for 80% of what I do. Then they will expect this amount from me. That's very weird, because for 100%, even 200%, I always say, whoever is coming for the trial period, the people are coming not only to conquer, they try to seem Superman. I mean, they would like to show everyone, and even to the oldies, that I'm the new generation, so I can do everything. And everybody is looking at you and saying, relax, what are you doing? So they can still see that they're ridiculing you, and they even put some money at stake that this person will leave in a month. Not just because they are bastards, but because you are going on like a crazy dog, rushing to this work to show how cool you are, forgetting that you need to fuel your vehicle. You cannot use the same vehicle permanently. You can't drive all the time. You need to relax. If you just relax and you just Don't close your eyes. In the best case scenario, you will open your eyes in the hospital. I would even say in a different way. It's not like fueling at the station, but that the vehicle with the comfortable speed of 100 kilometers per hour, but we are trying to have the max speed, then there are lots of videos in YouTube what happens with such drivers. The end is the same for all of them. Like director Robert Weiser, right? Yes. My friend used to say, if you're totally in something, if you're not nothing, you should work all the time. So, unfortunately, the end of the story was in the hospital and for a long time. And then he understood that he shouldn't have done like that. But we are saying that when we've already overcome that, then that we are so clever that we shouldn't do like that. That's why we are saying how to prevent, especially among those who's never done something like that. And those who have done that, you've already understood and systematized what you should pay attention to, first of all. And certain workaholism. I need to work a lot, I will relax when I'm a pensioner, or, for instance, the feeling that if I don't work enough, I will be out of money, and I will starve, and all my griefs will be there. The fourth is that we are working as a value. It should be on the first place. Not me, not my wishes connected with the work, not my friends, not my family, but the work should be on my first place. My family will wait, but the work will not wait. The deadline will not wait. So we've got, I would say, two ways to get this burnout. The first, how I already mentioned the example of Zhenya. This is the continuous tension which is piling up during a short period of time, and then it puts us down. And the second is the gradual, as it was happening with the theater I was telling you about. I was doing that for about 3 years. At the brink of affordable. Well, kind of, yes. Or, for instance, I have the client who is thinking to quit for about 3 years. And during these 3 years, I love professional diagnostics, but in fact, when the person is coming and telling me I don't have any power for anything, I don't have any energy, you don't have to be some cool expert to understand that the person has burnout. So I'm telling him, come on, just for yourself, get through this test, and I'll send this link to your chat when I will be telling how to identify the burnout. So send me the results. Though, first of all, it is for you. And he's sending the results to me. You can see them. You don't need to be an expert of psychology to understand. And it's even written here that the green color is the symptom which is not created, the kind of a dumpy color is what is already increasing, the red color is the symptom which is there already. Oh, it's so red. It is all working, yes. The tension phase, it has 72 of 100, the resistance phase 91 of 100, the exhaustion phase is 98 out of 100. As far as I understand, this is 2% to the neurological ward in the hospital. Well, this is not the joke, it's very serious. By the way, we have a question. I know that we will answer this question, but still, I would like that for our client, you see, I'm telling that he's a client already. Well, because I'm already speaking with you. So we have the question from the anonymous. How don't we let ourselves to burn out when everything is so rushing on and you're afraid to fall out of the context in the working flow? We will be speaking about that a bit later. Yes, we'll have the separate chapter about that. This question will be answered later. Well, the part of the question will be in the lecture. The part of the answer, the fear to fall out. I used to have a client. She was telling that she began to drink extra alcohol, yes. And it's obvious that alcohol is a ritual as the end of the working day. Phew, this is the end. I can have another sip. If I had already a drink, then I'm not working more today. Because she's not a sommelier. So she doesn't work with alcohol. And she said the same. She had the fear to not to catch up with the competitors. But you need to rush on to be ahead of everyone. But I'm always asking her, what is at the finish? After you are ahead of all, what's the prize? What's awaiting for you? And we came out to the conclusion that the finish is the death. You will be the first to die. You will be ahead of everyone to die. So, the question to our anonymous person who asked the question, what's at the finish? You are afraid not to have enough time to get where? So what do we feel? When I achieved something, I will feel happiness, right? Why do I need $1 million? Well, because then I will be able to feel some emotion of happiness. This emotion is to prove, for instance, to my father that I'm capable of something. The idea that I can travel and not do anything. So, in any aims and goals, I'm willing to get this emotion of happiness. And here, well, we need to understand how this factor is formulated. But what's the issue is that these results at some point may not make me happy. The money stops motivating. The achievements stop motivating because, as I said before, the body is still turning off all the wishes. And this idea that I will be popular, I will be famous, but I won't be able to feel that because I'm exhausted. Well, do we need that in fact? As far as I understand, when you don't think about that, when you are in this rush, you think, I will achieve this and I'll be happy. But you are rushing in, you are burning out, and in the end, you don't need it. You turn off all the lights. Yes, you just don't feel it. When the people are saying the price is not proportionate with the expenses, what you put onto this altar is not proportionate. It would be cool if it's proportionate. I was living through these rays. I drank some water. I could see my child. I was at the birthdays of my parents. I could see my grandparents. But when you're in the end of the finish and you don't have anything, you don't have relations, you don't have efforts, here is your million, but you think, what I can do that? That's Breaking Bad. When you got this million, you just burnt it away, and this is the end. And this is the part of the answer. But it's better to understand how this factor is formulated. You need to change it, because it will only harm. The symptoms of the emotional burnout. We will have 10 symptoms, and you can instantly, if you find 3 which concern you out of the 10, you can finally see that you have the burnout. First, the constant feeling of oppression. You can see this exhaustion all over the day without any visible reasons. Secondly, there are no reasons for oppression, but still you feel oppression. Secondly, you have the lack of sleep. Even if we sleep 8 to 10 hours, when we wake up, we are sleepy still. The second symptom is connected with the third one, that we don't have the proper mood and any wish to begin the new day. This is the psychological mechanism. Why should I wake up during the day if this day is disgusting for me, if I don't want to begin it, if it's senseless, if I do something what I don't want to do during this day? Fourth, I'm quickly exhausting, I'm tired so quickly and I cannot focus. So I can see some complications with concentration. Fifth, I don't have any wish to do something. As we already mentioned, this feeling of apathy. Sixth, this is one of the, well, not that obvious and noticeable, but important points, which begin when the usual request of a colleague at home or any other request, please make a call to the consumer, sit with a baby, go to the store. Any usual request is perceived aggressively, and we have this unsubstantiated irritation towards others. The seventh, my body is giving me some signals. I can feel some headache, I can feel some backache, my eyesight is not as good as it used to be. The eighth, we don't have any power and energy for our friends and hobbies. For instance, I always played guitar, it always gave me some of the power and energy. Now I'm out of power, even to think to take a guitar and play it, or to meet with my friends. The ninth, my issues with health stopped worrying me. The only wish is to lock myself in an apartment and have a sleep for 1,000,000 years for no one to disturb me. And the 10th symptom, which I felt during the second month of the war, is the language dysfunction. It's hard for me to create sentences and to express my thoughts and ideas. Before the full-scale war, I had 3 consultations and counseling sessions a day. As soon as we left Irpin, I had some relaxation, and after that, I had 12 counseling sessions a day. So you're waking up in the morning, you eat some sandwich, you have only 10 minutes, because there are lots of issues, you need to help to many people, you need to unite people. So once my client told me, Oleksii, I can hear that it's hard for you to formulate your ideas. How are you? I heard it during the second month of this marathon. I almost burst into tears. I thought, that's true. And then I understood, if I don't want to totally fall out, I need to decrease my activity as a volunteer and a professional rather quickly. So I created 2 super important days off for me, though they were not totally days off, because there were different cases, like Bucha, which took place, then my girlfriend's father, who was taking the injuries, and the helicopter from Azovstal was hit down, and we didn't know whether he is alive or not, and so on. Those are the issues when you cannot refuse. You cannot say during a day off, well, you have the whole day. Can't you spend only an hour? And the people are living through this grief in a very acute way. This stress is so aggravated. Yes, we will be speaking about that in more details later. So, in fact, knowing myself what burnout is, I've been in a burnout substantially for 2 times. And even during these moments, it was hard for me, because there is some idea, there is a person who needs my help now. I'd better help than anybody else because I'm a competent person. And still it's hard to refuse. So what's the result? What are the consequences of a burnout? First, we are losing sense and taste for what we are doing. So we may say that we are losing this feeling of happiness. Because when there is no sense and there is no taste for life, we may say that there is no happiness. If we do not see the desired outcome, or we are rushing through this marathon in the speed of a sprint, of a race, which took place with me during the first months. Formally, why do I repair my apartment, which soon will be totally destroyed? There is no sense. So this is the feeling of the loss of sense. Secondly, the loss of any wish. The wish is the movement. The movement is the symbol of life. The lack of the wish is the symbolic death. And the third is angedony, when the person doesn't have the capability to have fun, to enjoy anything. How do I understand that I have a burnout? If you can, could you please now send my links to the chat, dear moderators? Yes, this is the diagnostics of the level of the emotional burnout. You can use these tests a bit later. Yes, you don't need it now. Just save those links and then you will open them and you will fill in those forms. These are the short tests which are rather valid. So you will be seeing the result. Everything will be written there. So first, if during... Well, first of all, when you have 3 or more symptoms out of the list of 10 symptoms which we used to have over here, if you have 3 or more, you may say that you have a burnout. Secondly, is if it does not leave you, the state does not leave you, in 2 or 3 weeks, then you definitely should get to an expert. In the end, I will tell about this idea of a sanatorium. You will need to restore. If you're not restoring during 2 or 3 weeks, you'll need to get to an expert. Third, you got the results of the questionnaires, and you will see everything with your own eyes. If you generate the signs of emotional burnout for a long time, you can get from enthusiasm to disgust. There is instantly the question, which is just perfect now. Can you burn out? This is the question from Alexandra. If you really love your work, and you just said about this enthusiasm and love to your job, but if you do not prevent the burnout, it will take place. Yes, you can burn out. Even if you love, you adore your job, you can still have the burnout. That's true. So now we will be speaking about that. About the stages of the burnout. How do I begin to notice? Just if you make a short film, this is the main character, the protagonist, the first picture is about the boy to the left, who really loves his job. So the first is the kind of the period with candies and flowers. So we found a favorite job and we'd like to spend 24 hours for it, 24/7, and to tell everyone about it, especially if you are a creative expert. I told about my burnout in the theater. What's about this rose and candy stage? We are ready to work for the idea. Secondly, the money is not the motivation for us. A big idea is bigger than something material. Besides that, we have the feeling that I would like to grow professionally. Make a movie for your portfolio. Make another film for your portfolio. Make a third one for your portfolio. I love to make movies, for instance. So it's about what's motivating you a bit more. The third is the lack of borders between your personal life and professional sphere. When the professional sphere is filling up, and what's the most interesting, we would like it to fill up all of our life. The fourth, we are beginning to solve working issues during our free time. Fifth, meeting with close people or sports is what we don't have time for, and it is of less priority in comparison with work. During this period, we are prone to ignore any exhaustion which the organism, the body can in fact hint through the euphoria. The second part, the second stage is the lack of power or energy. At this stage, first, we are creating ourselves as a savior or a victim. It seems to us that everything will fail without us. At work, there are so many tasks that we need to go on. For instance, I have the day off, I can see some symptoms of the burnout, but I am a savior. It's hard for me to turn down the offer. Secondly, we feel the permanent anxiety, and the thoughts about work don't let us sleep. The deadlines here and there. You cannot turn off your mind, right? You are solving the issues, then you go to bed and you solve the issues lying down during your sleep. The third, you can feel the wish to get rid of the responsibility and not do anything. This is just the wish. It would be so cool not to do anything. So it's just a dream. So far it's not an action. Yes, it just emerges. It emerged and let it be. I wish I could do that. It begins to emerge at the first stage. I wish I could have a glass of wine and not all of that. Yes, something like that. You don't have such wish during this first stage, because you want to work and work again. At the second stage, these wishes may emerge from time to time. Fourth, in spite of the obvious negative feelings towards your work, which can begin to be created, we go on working because of some ideological component or financial component. And it happens rather often. You're working for the idea, you don't earn anything. You're working for the money, you don't feel any taste for what you're doing. And the fifth, if this is money, or if this idea does not give you joy, you do not enjoy it. So I'm doing something, we are making a movie, but I don't feel a single emotion. I remember that before my thesis, I was made to correct it for 9 times. Maybe just because I didn't want to give some bribes. So, in fact, when I left, yes, I redid my thesis in the higher educational institution for 10 times. I was told, that's it, we congratulate you, now you PhD, but I didn't feel anything, just zero. I was totally indifferent. I didn't care. I felt euphoria when I finalized the thesis, when I wrote down the last dot. The full stop. After the first time, then they made me remake it for the first time, the second time, and after the 10 times, that was it. Then, the third stage, we see chronic symptoms. At this stage, we feel the full lack of physical powers, spiritual and moral powers. Just the full lack or absence. Secondly, To protect ourselves, we are becoming aggressive. We are irritated and aggressive against everyone and everything. The third, we can see those eye bags, the problems with digestion and all the rest. The fourth stage, that is disgust. Everything what we had at the previous stage is becoming deteriorated. That is poisoning. Well, kind of poisoning I was speaking about in the beginning. True. So how do we prevent a repetitive burnout at work? And how do we overcome it when it still took place? Do you remember I told the story about the guy who was trying to quit for 3 years? One of his fears was money. I'm earning good money, I can earn less, and the idea, earning less is living worse. So this idea, what did we do with that? This is a separate topic, in fact. It's complicated to translate it and to tell it to you quickly. But still, when you earn less does not mean that you will live worse. This is the first idea out of this story. And lots of people who are earning much less than he did, what do you earn? Well, I'd like to earn to travel, to buy an apartment, but I'm not happy in this apartment because I'm exhausted because of my work. I don't want to travel because I'm out of energy to enjoy it. But still someone is working, as I used to do that with my friend. I thought that there are two coolest activities. First is a guard. Well, we used to be we used to be the graduates. We only got the first jobs. Well, not the guards at the supermarket, but the guard of some office premises. What does he do? He is clicking the pause on his iPad, giving away the keys, and then again plays the movie. A TV show, right? Yes, the TV show he's watching. Or we like to read with my friend, and we thought, God, it's so cool, you are reading for the whole day at work, and they pay you money for that. And the second is the head, the chief of the warehouse working at the night shift. So, when nobody is caring about you, and secondly, you've got 2 additional days to do what you like to do, what you would adore. You can rent some room and you will be happy. This is just an example how we thought with my friend, that if you don't earn a lot, but you're still happy because you do what you like. Did you have any clients who would say that they are the guards and still had burnouts? No, I didn't have any like those. So this is the way out. This is the perfect profession. If you don't have such clients, then the guards don't have burnouts. Of course they do. That's a joke. Well, you see, the guards have a different motivation. Maybe they have this lack of money. So they are not satisfied with this work. Secondly, those are some therapeutic ideas which we decided to make as conclusions. For instance, there is no, as a conclusion with that my client, we made a conclusion that there is no perfect moment for quitting. Well, for instance, the horoscope does not help you in that. The third, he does not quit, but he is just leaving for rehabilitation. Do you remember about the shape and essence? The person who is wounded with the broken arm, we understand that I cannot function properly because I have a broken arm. But here we have internal wound, which he just ignores and thinks that he can earn a bit more. The fourth, that after rehabilitation, you can still come back to the same job or any other job and you can earn as much as you earned. This is a kind of storytelling. We have two issues as for recommendations. First, prevention at work. What does it include? The availability of ambitious but achievable goals. It's important for all of our efforts to be embodied in the achievable goals. This is how our dopamine is working. I was climbing the tree. I picked up the apple. I took a bite, so I felt perfect. When I was climbing and fell down, because I didn't just want an apple, but I wanted a super apple, and then I was climbing again and fell down, I will not have the wish to climb for the fourth time. I had such a client, an entrepreneur, who told me that I had ideas which were working, but the last 3 ideas which I spent money for are not working, so I'm afraid to begin anything, because I understand that I need to do that. So we came to the conclusion, to the rather simple but really comprehensible goals which give some result. For instance, if you know Instagram stores, please create stores in Instagram. Let you feel this confidence again. This is how you shape this confidence. If you do the same repetitive action and it is working every time, I feel that I'm confident. I feel more confident. I'm sure that I can, for instance, do some coffee. My child is not sure that I can do coffee. And the same about the lack of confidence. I'm trying to understand something, so I get to the socket. For 10 times I can feel this electricity, so it's painful, so I will not do that for the 11th time. So those should be ambitious but achievable goals. Secondly, to allow yourself do that work where we are the only ones who are responsible and no one else. It can give you control. And secondly, it can give you the feeling that this is my result. When I need to make a deal to coordinate there and here, like I have 3 directors of some departments where we need to make deals and it is working, but other people cannot do that for several times, and the overall outcome of your 3 apartments is not enough. So in the end of the day, I can feel disgust to my work. I should deal with the work where I enjoy my result. Thirdly, we should try to change our working locations. It may help. For instance, today I'm working from the office, tomorrow in the open air, and the day after tomorrow at some cafe. The change of the location does not always lead to effect, but we can try to do that. The fourth, if it's a project activity, we should have some relaxation after the project, even if we are told you will earn twice as much as you've earned before. You shouldn't instantly begin another project if you spent lots of efforts for the previous one. If the efforts were not that substantial, we can feel that we can go on, please move on. But we are asking our own body, what do you want or you don't want? What you are feeling for all of that? The fifth, if the work needs to you being nauseous, you should change your work. But you shouldn't be nauseated. And how? We told about that before. Prevention beyond the work. First, you need to understand the reasons of your state. For instance, we are suffering and affected because of the lack of sense. And we are trying to filling it up with the indicators of work, the high indicators of material goods or the acknowledgement in the society. So inside, I do not understand why, and to understand it, I need to prove everyone that I'm so cool. But in fact, I do not feel anything. Or I can ask myself, what goals which I am achieving are my personal goals, and which of them maybe are imposed. If those are the imposed, maybe we shouldn't refuse and turn them down. Secondly, we should spend equal attention to all of the spheres of life. It's super important for the work not to do everything, not let our work to take all the time. To turn off the phone or not to answer the work calls beyond your work when you're at home or anything else, especially during the holiday. My father had a wonderful anti-example. I was a little boy and I saw that he was always explaining during the holiday what is and where and what is taking place. So I understood as soon as I am out of my work, because I used to be the teacher at the university, I just left and I decided not to answer, only for one person who was I super respected. And that's it. When you're not answering for 2 months, you form the expectation that there is no sense to call Oleksii when he's not at work. So you don't. The third, the ritual of the shifts. The shifts between your working hours and relaxation hours. The rituals to change the external settings. Someone is making coffee, turning on the laptop, and this is the beginning of your working day. When it is beginning, I just turn on the light, and this candle is kind of a ritual. The time disconnected from anything, I'm beginning to work on the lecture. Someone thought that he could take the bottle of beer and make a sip, and then we can see this is the end of the working day. I do not urge you to drink, but you can just imagine that you have the building, you have your job in one room, relaxation in the second room, your family is in the third room. So you can just imagine that you are closing the doors, coming to a different room. Even you can see some of the work from a different room. You can just imagine how you take all the problems and issues, putting them in the box, and putting this box in a different room, and promising to this box that you will come back to it tomorrow at 9 a.m. So I'm closing this door and locking it, for those issues not to come back, because they have such a capability. What do you do when you have a burnout? Rather often during the burnout, they offer to have some relaxation and to do something creative. But the problem is, how do you do something creative in the profession which is already creative? So, in fact, first we need the full-scale long holiday to have some fun and to enjoy the goals which you appointed before and where you invested lots of time. What I really love most of all is the mode of sanatorium or the feeling of carelessness. When I went to the school, Saturday and Sunday were the days off. And when in Friday you had your homework, you have the full carelessness feeling. You're waking up, you're watching cartoons, you're taking the basketball ball, you're throwing it for the whole day. So you don't have the feeling that something is still over you. The sword of Damocles is still not used. Yes, this feeling of the carelessness. When you have the summer holidays beginning, cool. When you're playing the square with your fellow friends. So why am I naming it a mode of sanatorium? Because in my childhood I went to sanatoriums and I really loved them with its atmospheres. to breathe with quartz, with the passionas, to have some of the electrical procedures. Yes, it is useful. But again, this is the feeling of carelessness. They feed you, you're not responsible for anything, you're going to the medical procedures and you're only relaxing, at least for 21 days. This is the minimal sanatorium term. I remember the last term. I went to Truskavets. I woke up in the morning, had breakfast, then medical procedures. During the lunch, I was watching Colombo TV show, which was shown on the TV. Then I went and had my supper and watched another episode of Colombo. For another time, the same episode which was shown during my lunch. Just perfect for 21 days. So for 21 days, for you to be able to create some new habit, 21 days is enough to shape a different rhythm. We're not speaking about habits now. We're speaking about the certain period of carelessness for the body to restore itself. And not to think that I'm only having 5 days left, what do I do here? If you have this feeling that you would like to come back to work, it's already the sign that your forces, that your power is coming back. But if you came to this sanatorium, not even for a week, well, you see, sanatorium is a symbol. You don't need to go to the sanatorium. It's the symbol of this carelessness. You can just not do anything at home for 21 days. Or you just wake up, you throw your ball in the game, then you played some computer game, had a snack and went to bed. I'm speaking about the symbol of carelessness feeling. It's just the symbol. It doesn't mean that we all need sanatoriums. Someone feeds me, so I'm not responsible for anything. There's a two important criteria. Thirdly, physical exercises and healthy food. Everybody knows that, even without me. Right. The most important thing is to remember that if you have enthusiasm, you can quickly get to disgust, so you cannot buy sense for money. Thank you. A round of applause. I'm ready to answer the questions. Yes, if there are any questions, please pose them. We've got not that much time, but we've got some, so you could pose your questions. If you've got any, we can discuss them. I'd like to thank you so much, because it seems to me that lots of my colleagues and acquaintances, and the ones who I don't know, already felt this idea that either I am in the burnout or I felt it before, but I did not notice that and I did not pay attention to that. But I had a question. When you said about this formal and symbolic sanatorium, right? And when the person is getting there, and in a day he or she says, no, everything will burn without me. This is not the adequate state. Then why did you go there if you feel that? If you go to restore yourself, you should restore yourself. If someone told you that, but you do not feel it, well, sorry. You need to listen to yourself. So if everybody told you, you need to relax, and you decided, yes, I'm going to the sanatorium, and if after the day you think that it does not work, you're going and thinking, I will go there and I will be just working but looking at the sea. This is not the kind of relaxation. You just need to restore your efforts. Sanatorium is a symbol or the state of carelessness. This is just the symbol of the carelessness. I know that I have lots of chats, and there is the chat with my colleagues, with my friends, and rather often I can see, can I have this quick relaxation, really quick one, because I'm too busy, just to have a cool relaxation of everything and then to go on working. I think that it's impossible. Well, depending on how much forces and the powers you spent. If you spent a bit, we were speaking about the balance between the working space. Yes, you can be tired at work, but if everything is balanced, then you will restore yourself. You will go and have a laugh with your friends, maybe smoking a hookah or having a stroll. You are having a good sleep and food, so you will compensate all of that. But if again you had a marathon race, it's a cool example. Just to have a day of relaxation and then to have another marathon is not working, depending on the amount of efforts you're having. And also, one more question. Well, maybe there won't be any questions because it's very intimate, and people are now in this cognitive shock. That's what I heard. Look, I need to identify whether I have this burnout or not, which stage I'm now at, because the stages have been announced, so I need to find myself. So if it is the usual thing in the collective to have this race in the sprint speed, what do? This is the collective, for instance. This is the superior, the head of my boss is like this. Should I stand for my own ideas or should I put up with that and rush with them? Well, in any way you will quit. Everything depends on the management. How do you establish the borders to have both the time to rush and to relax? For instance, if you're working in McDonald's, people are not staying for a long time there. Why? Well, because the peculiarity of the work, of this kind of work, that it's okay. The person came, was working and leaving. For instance, in the companies like Google, you need to value your employee, you need to do all of that for the person to stay, because this employee is the best. Then my friend is a recruiter in one of the departments of Apple, and she says, I'm closing the positions, 12 positions per year, knowing that she has only 8 hours of the working hours, that she is searching for people for 8 hours. And when you found such a person, you don't want to lose him or her. When you're in McDonald's, well, I don't say that McDonald's is bad and Apple is good. Well, it's a different scheme, it's a different system, yes. If you have such a style, sooner or later, either I don't suit this style, or I need to find some of the borders in this style. Or you're working and earning money. You worked only for half a year, and then you quit. Just for you to understand what situation you are now at and how do you treat it. For you not to want to get to Google, but to work at some of this conveyor. Because if you'd like to have your growth and in fact the attitude towards your personality, and you're at this assembly line, then it is a kind of disappointment. If you come to the corporation which has a different style and it cannot satisfy you, it won't work. Yes, you should look at the style and values and to see whether it suits you or not. For instance, when I used to be the senior scientific assistant and they offered me to be the head of a lab, and it's already managerial activity. And I understood that I like to sit and to write something on my own, and for nobody to touch me. So I refused. Yes, in the end of the day I had less of authority, I earned less, but still I was working and I loved that. I loved what I did. So in fact, something similar is here. For it to suit the style, the values, your rhythm, then there won't be any internal conflicts. It is so important that you need to calibrate yourself and your own values and the values of the company or corporation you're now working at. You need to know what you want at the finish, which we were speaking about, and you're finally achieving the finish. You need to understand what you want, and you need to understand whether the corporation is capable to give it to you. If they cannot, these puzzles will not connect. There is one more question. What will you tell about the burnout among the students? Because you cannot relax. The lectures are waiting for you, the sessions are there, and you'd like to get as much knowledge as possible. Well, I used to be a student myself, even twice. And if I'm studying and working, and I need both, then really I need to choose what's more important for me, to work now and not to get knowledge. And unfortunately not to leave that nicely, or to gain some knowledge and then to leave properly. As for the number of sessions, I don't know whether this burden is too much. If you just have a usual training process, it's just the normal speed to have enough time for both the sessions, the lectures, and the home assignments. Well, if we take the students, and for instance, I don't know, some volunteer who is thinking that the earth is burning under him, this is a kind of a different tempo or speed. For student, it's much easier. So you can afford yourself to have some relaxation. Well, yes, at the lecture, for instance, you can see the teacher who is boring. You can have a sleep during this lecture. If you don't remember anything. Yes, it's adaptation. It's cool. Okay, so I think that we can say goodbye to our viewers. That was a very cool conversation, incredibly useful information. I think that everybody needs to pass these tests and to see which stage of burnout you're now at. If you're at any stage, don't worry, you can correct that. You have power, you are talented and cool people, and I'd like all the talented and creative personalities to know how to cope with that and to get help, because it's totally okay. Because creativity is an inseparable part of us. We are all having burnout because we are so connected with this creativity. It's getting through us. We will have burnout. If you don't have burnout, it's cool, but don't say that burnout does not exist if you're not prone to it. It exists. Let's respect all of our colleagues who have burnouts, and if we can, let's help them a bit. I would like everybody to become creative again, among the creative guards, to repulse our enemies, to create perfect content, to take care about our relatives, and create wonderful stories and make this world better. Thank you so much. Thank you, Oleksii, for this wonderful conversation. In about a week or two, Projector will write down where we'll post the content. Just follow the news of the festival LINOLEUM. If you want to re-watch that, you will see the links a bit later. So thank you so much, everyone. Take care about yourselves. Do not ignore the air raid alerts. The victory to all of us. Be healthy. See you. Goodbye.